Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode. Today I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about things I look at when I'm reviewing players' accounts, some of the mistakes that I see often, some of the things that I highly recommend people do or be cautious of whenever you're making your account. If you find these videos useful, please leave a like below. Let me know in the comments what you guys like about these reviews. And if you want to review, please go to the Discord link in the description below. You'll be able to click on that, go to the account reviews page, create a forum, post pictures, ask questions, and I go over those on Tuesdays and Thursdays, most of the time anyways. And that's usually about 2 hours before reset. We start going through those. Sometimes I'll do them on Sundays. And with that, let's jump into this. One of the first things I look at are people's battle reports. So I'll go in, take a look at, see how their team is made up, if they have exclusive weapons, what their exclusive weapons are on what heroes, and then taking a look at their gear, going through their gear, and then skill points. On the gear, I am looking for what the star levels are. If you don't have star levels, how are you leveling up your gear? You should be focusing on the upgrades to the guns and the data chips for your attack heroes. And then you're looking at the defensive gear for your defensive heroes. So the radars, the armor pieces, getting those up to level 40 first, and then getting the star imprints on those. What I like to see is somebody working on a level 4 gun on one of their main attackers, whether that's Kim, Diva, maybe Tesla or Swift. And then they're also working on maybe a little bit of 2-star gear for the defensive pieces, say a couple armor pieces and radars to level 2, if not pushing one up to level 4, just to get those damage reduction abilities. So at star level 2 and 4, you have the energy damage reduction on the radars, and you got the physical damage reduction on the armor pieces. So those are the key levels you want to upgrade things to. You don't want to have a bunch of 1-star pieces everywhere. I see that all the time, or a bunch of 3-star pieces. 2 stars are typically the most efficient levels to get things up to, and more significantly when you're talking about the defensive pieces, because you're getting those damage reduction attributes. If you're trying to play it safe, I would say a mythic gun, a mythic radar, those are probably the first 1 or 2 mythics that you want to build. A mythic data chip, so the data chip in the middle there, that is one of the last things you want to make mythic on any of your heroes. There's few times where you might want to focus on building a data chip, a mythic data chip, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But for the most part, on most teams, whether it's tank or aircraft, building a mythic gun, a couple of mythic radars, those are going to be better for you than, say, building a mythic data chip along with, if I had my mythic gun on my Diva and I built a mythic data chip, that is not going to be as great as if I had a mythic radar up on one of my front heroes. If you don't know, data chips, while they do give you some attack, they're more damage reduction focused than they are attack focused when you're talking about the mythic upgrade. So yes, you got yourself a mythic data chip, but it doesn't really give you that much more damage output. So it doesn't really make a ton of sense to do that on an attacker as one of the first mythic upgrades. Now, if you have your front line, like mine, where I have 4, we're about to have 4 mythic pieces of gear, then going back and getting the mythic data chip on my Diva would not be a bad play. But even then, while it does give me a little more damage output, I may just go ahead and get a mythic radar on my Diva, because that's going to give me more survivability, because I'm taking 30% less crit damage. So when you're looking at this, the guy on the left here, Siri, I guess, he has a bunch of level 2-star gear, and he's got a 2-star gun on his Marshall. Lots of missing damage reduction. I would rather focus on taking off that level 2 gun off Marshall, and then I'd probably even break down, say, one of the armor pieces for the Stepman, and trying to get the 4 stars up on the armor pieces on your Murphy and Williams, because they're your front line. You want to make them super beefy, so taking less energy damage, taking less physical damage is what you want to do when you're trying to buff those guys up. If I was the guy on the left, I certainly wouldn't have made that data chip on Kim Mythic, I would have been working on one of the armor pieces for either the Murphy or Williams, getting that to Mythic, or even a Mythic radar for Kim. That would have been a lot more effective. And then taking a look at skills, I'm always looking to see how people are leveling up their defensive heroes, if they're focusing on the tactive and passives versus the auto attack. So if you look at mine on the right here, you'll see my auto attacks on my Carly and my Lucius are pretty far behind because I'm focusing on the damage reduction, which comes out of the tactics abilities and their passive abilities. Then when you go down to my attackers here, you'll see my auto attack and tactics abilities are pretty much maxed out, and then my passive abilities are slightly behind those. Nothing is more frustrating than when I look at an account and somebody has, say, a Lucius, and they have their auto attack up to 25 and their tactics abilities and passive abilities are only level 20 or even level 15 or something like that. You waste so many skill points by leveling up their auto attack on your defenders when they don't do that much damage for you in comparison to the actual attackers. You're working on their defense capabilities because you want them to stay alive a long time and reduce damage to your backline heroes. And for those of you that are a little bit later into the game, you have your first team that's pretty well close to max. Say you're looking at an account like mine, where most of my skills are at the max, and all you have now are basically the auto attacks for your defensive heroes. You can get them up to 20, 25 and just kind of leave them there and go work on your second squad, because the number of skill points that you'll burn getting those auto attacks from 20 to 25 or 25 to 30 on those defensive heroes, you could be almost leveling up a bunch of your second team for the same amount. So you can take a bunch of auto attack and tactics abilities from 5 to 15 on your second squad for those attackers, and working on the passive and tactics for the defensive heroes. And you can gain a ton of power for a fraction of the cost. And that's going to be a better use of those skill medals when you get to this point. Can you throw in 1 or 2 upgrades here and there every week? Yeah, you can do that. You can do, for instance, like I could get my Carly's auto attack up to 25 and then go to my second team, or actually my third team now, and say I wanted to work on Tesla and pushing Tesla up to 30. Then I can go in and dump everything else into Tesla's auto attack or something like that. A little bit of work on my first team, but then I'm going majority all in on my second or third team to get those guys built up. So then going to the Army tab, I'll take a look at what your drone levels are at, what your skill chips are. Are you building the right skill chips first? And I talk about this all the time. The quantum field is the best one. You want to push this up to level 5 as fast as you can, and then level the rest up to level 5. The only time you might want to change that around is when you are working on Missile Squad and you get the quantum field up to level 5, and then maybe you go with the resonance armor up to level 5 to increase the defense for the front line. And that is if you're in a situation where you're running Swift in the front line and you're trying to make him super beefy. This will increase his armor. I know I'm looking at tanks here, but if this was missile, it increases the missile hero's defense. So the front line, you're getting really beefy, and that's what you need to keep your Swift alive. So the quantum field number 1, and then you can do the resonance armor number 2 if you're running missile, and you want to get these up to level 5. And then lethal firestorm, certainly a really good one to get leveled up to 5. And then same thing with the ultra fusion after you get the lethal firestorm up to 5. So typical rule of thumb would be to go to quantum field to 5, lethal firestorm to 5, ultra fission to 5, and then resonance armor to 5. Unless you're doing missile, and then you can kind of throw the shield in there or do the armor after you do the quantum field. And I'll take a look at the components, see where those are at, see what you have for your gorilla, how many levels you have. And then the big thing is your tech. If your tech's not right, that can make a big difference in your fight. You can have some really good armor or really good gear on your team. You could have a really good drone. You could have, your skills nearly maxed out. But if your tech is garbage, you could lose to a lot of people and just be really frustrated because you don't understand why you're losing to teams that are weaker than you. When in reality, the tech makes a huge difference. And most of the time, I'll tell you right now, the Mastery Tech is probably one of the best trees in the game. You get so much power from it, and it doesn't show up in the total hero power. You're not going to see a big power increase there when you're doing the Mastery Tech. But actually, in fights, I've run in against people that are maybe 1,000,000, 2,000,000 power stronger than me, but I run through them because I have, say 70% Mastery Tech, and they have like 10%. Mastery Tech makes a huge difference. It's kind of like hidden power because it increases the attack, the defense, the HP. When you have that synergy with having all, say, 5 aircraft team or all 5 tank teams, and then it increases your march size, increases your damage reduction. So it's all stats that you don't see in the march power, but whenever you actually attack, it shows up there. So I'll take a look and see where you're at the mastery tree. If you have special forces tech nearly maxed out, do you have your tier 10s? Where's your hero tree, your unit tree, that sort of stuff. And if you didn't know, when you get your special forces up to level 80 or 80%, that's when you unlock the mastery tech. But when you get your tier 10s, the next things I would focus on would be getting the 4th drill grounds out of the defense fortifications, and then, getting the 4th hospital out of defense fortifications and getting the 4th drill grounds out of the siege tree. So you have to get through one row of the siege tree to get to the 4th drill ground. So that's a little more work. The 4th hospital, it's the first tech. It's very simple to get. So go ahead and pick that up and then get the 4th drill grounds. And then after that, grind out special forces to 80% to get to the masteries. Get yourself a ton of power in there. And usually, depending on how you built your team and depending on what I see in the first 2 tabs, I'll usually have a pretty good idea before I even look at this page to know who did the damage and who was surviving based on how they were geared out. But sometimes some of the numbers might be surprising in here. As you can see, my Statman, he actually did a fair amount of damage. Even with the weapons that Kim has, Statman can still do a ton of damage. And this is my second team, so they're not even fully geared out. They just have level 40 gear, no star imprints or anything like that at the moment. So that's what I'm looking at on the Discord reviews. So if you sign up in Discord, I'm going to go through your battle reports, go through all that stuff, talk about the tack. We could talk about what you have in your inventory. If you have stuff in your gear tab, in your hero tab that you're holding on to, that maybe we can use to kind of get some instant power. And if you want to become a Mythic member, either I can log onto the account or you can do a share screen Discord call and we can walk through your account and we can go through your tech trees, look through everything, circle through your inventory, talk about that stuff, where you're at, look at your marches, what can we break down and repurpose either either legendary prints or mythic prints, put them at a better spot to give you more power out of your team. And then we can even take a look at your arena. I can go in there, check out your teams, see what your lineup is, what you can do to make things maybe a little bit better. You can always go in whenever you do hit the challenge button. You'll have the option to select the team and make sure you select the right garage, your right skill chips, and then if you're going to select the gorilla, make sure you have that on there too. So make sure you have the garages right and you have your skill chips right on your teams. I see that a lot where people mix their teams up, they'll throw teams together, or they'll move teams around, but then they forget to move their garages or they forget to move their skills for their drone. So then you have tank buffs with your aircraft team and you lose because you lost out on a bunch of additional buffs from your drone. And then, of course, there's always the wanted boss. We can jump in here and take a look and see if we can improve numbers on there, try to break certain milestones. Lots of different options, all depending on where you're at in the game, what you want to do. Helping out with seasons. I've helped people get started in seasons really fast, what to focus on. And that's it. I know there's a lot of other stuff I could go into, but that's kind of the big meat and potatoes of everything. Feel free to either join the Discord in the description below or come out to a stream, come hang out with us, ask questions. I usually try to answer about every question I can unless I'm fighting or doing something where I really can't pay attention. And as of right now, I don't ask for anything in return whenever you do jump onto Discord. I do account reviews. If you want to donate to the channel, you can always do a super chat or become a member. Certainly enjoy seeing all the members join the channel, seeing the green names in the chat. That's really cool. But the Discord reviews are free. Like I said, if you want to become a Mythic member on YouTube, we can go a little bit deeper on the accounts. And that's it for this episode. Thanks again for all the support, everybody. And it's never a problem to jump on Discord, ask some questions, jump on a stream, ask some questions. That's what it's there for. Having fun, helping out. Hope to catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.